The views expressed during this program does not necessarily represent those of really any sane person with a brain. Listening to this program may actually kill brainwaves and make you dumber than you may already be. Listener discretion is advised. Really, because this show sucks to begin with.
Here we are, the Fantasy Fat Guys. I am Bill Powers.
I am Porterhouse.
Together we are the
Fantasy Fat Guys.
Catch us wherever you can find really bad podcasts, because we're
mediocre. Every now and then we've been told we're mediocre.
Mediocre. That's what we aim for. So if you aim for mediocrity, you will never be disappointed.
Exactly.
My phrase. So anyway, iHeartRadio still doesn't have us, F them. But you can get us on Apple. You can get us on every other.
Wherever your finest podcasts are found. Probably not us. There. But wherever you want to look for a good average, fantasy football group of guys that I was in first place for a week, and now I fell back to third.
I went 3 weeks without a victory, losing because my team was just horrendous. And then I had a big victory this week. Thank you, Jonathan Taylor.
5 touchdowns. My goodness.
How does that happen? Now he's going to break his leg this week, and I'll be done.
2 weeks ago, I had Mahomes throw for 5 scores, and this week he threw for none. So it's a lot of fun. And the Chiefs won, so nobody talks about it. But there you go.
Because
and when Cooper Kupp has a bye, I suck. That's what it comes down to.
I got to tell you, and Joe Burrow, I picked him up. He's had like 4 points and 9 points. So in the 2 weeks that I've started him. So I've got that going for me.
Next week, I start Heineke.
So you picked him up today.
Do you know why I picked him up? Do you know why?
Why?
Simply put, that if it's close on Monday, I have someone to root for. That was it. That was the whole reason. I have Heineke and McKissick because it's like just like the NFL in general, where you don't know who's going to win week in and week out anymore. It's really that confusing.
It really is.
Fantasy is the same way. It's like, my God, guys you're counting on. Did you think Jonathan Taylor's had a great year? In the beginning of the year, I wasn't sold. I didn't know if he was going to get the bulk. You know what? He's been amazing, right? Best running back in the league. But did you think he'd score 5 touchdowns against the Bills?
I didn't think he'd have 5 touchdowns.
I thought they'd be lucky to score 17 points in that game.
So at the end of the day, got very, very lucky. Thank you, Jonathan Taylor, because everybody else sucked on my team. I didn't play badly. I didn't have a bad week, but still some holes and stuff like that. But, that's the way fantasy football is. You never know. Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know
what you're going to get.
And that's just the way it is.
So let's start with baseball, my friend. Why not?
That's what makes sense during the football season.
First and foremost, both of our first loves is baseball, even though we love the Giants and Jets respectively.
Right.
You know, the football season's been over for quite a while. But so we have fantasy and we have baseball. Right. We're both Yankee fans, but the one guy that probably looks like he's going to get into the Hall would be a Red Sox.
That's right, Mr. Ortiz. Although A-Rod or A-Royd is also available this week to get this year.
Well, since Bonds hasn't found his way in yet, and he was a steroid guy before, he was a great player before the steroid stuff started happening.
Right.
And so was A-Rod. I don't know if A-Rod gets in.
Well, look, Barry's in his last year. Maybe getting in this year because the choices are very, very poor for the new ones, the new nominees, which we'll get to in a second. Clemens is in his 10th year as well. And, Gary Sheffield's in his 8th. But
you know who I always think should get more consideration and he doesn't? And I didn't think it when I was watching him play. But you look at his stats for the position he played, Jeff Kent.
Well,
Jeff Kent put up, arguably some of the best offensive numbers ever for a second baseman. He was a bit of a douche, but
no doubt about
it.
You're a bit of a douche, but you should be able to get into it.
And yet I should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, the Hair Club for Men Hall of Fame.
I love it.
Yeah. So let's run down the candidates this year who are eligible for the first time. You got A-Rod, right? Not getting in. David Ortiz should get in.
I listen. He never made it out against the Yankees. It's hard to say.
Not to mention, he had a great postseason career, too. He was just a tremendous ball player.
Listen, is there an advantage for not having to go out into the field and take errors back to the plate with you? Of course. Is there an advantage to getting to go to the take swings, I should say, underneath the stadium in between innings to keep yourself sharp? Sure. But nonetheless, the guy still produced.
And
he was bad, which I appreciate.
Key moments. I mean, that's the biggest thing. He was sometimes during the playoffs against the Yankees, they couldn't get him out.
So clutch. So clutch.
Other guys who are available to be voted on, Crawford started out great. I thought he was going to have a Hall of Fame career. And he went to the Dodgers and he was done.
Basically, as a Ray, he was pretty good.
Basically. Prince Fielder, really good ball player, very short career, doesn't get in. Ryan Howard, all of a sudden, like 4 years into his career, he started hitting 192 all the time.
Basically, and he's one of the top guys in this class.
Right. Tim Lincecum,
if the season if it was 2 years long, he would be the guy.
Right.
Much like Mattingly. Mattingly had 5 good years. I mean, Lincecum had like 2 or 3 where he looked like he was a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Justin Morneau, very good player.
Absolutely. But you never thought of him as a Hall of Famer.
Same thing with Joe Nathan. Very good player.
He went to Stony Brook. Local guy. We like him, but no.
We'd love to see him. He had like 400 saves, 364 saves or something like that.
I saw the Yankees rattle him too many times.
I know. Same thing with Papelbon. Papelbon, not a Hall of Famer.
No.
Love Jake Peavy. He's not a Hall of Famer.
Not even close.
Perzinski, he's good for the A-hole Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
He was baseball.
He was a good mediocre catcher.
If that. So, and then you got Jimmy Rollins and Mark Desharer. Both very good players, not Hall of Fame.
Tex is probably a little better than a lot of the guys on the list. Mm-hmm. But if it was just the Rangers, he probably would have made it. But his Yankees numbers weren't as good. He had a couple of good years with the Yanks, but he was never great.
Right, exactly. Very good ball player.
None of the guys we mentioned were ever the best at their position for a season, really. Maybe Papelbon was second behind Mariano 1 or 2 years.
Right.
That's about it. These were all a lot. You had a bunch of good and very good players. Like Justin Morneau was a very good player.
Very good player.
You know, and he's going to be in the Canadian Hall of Fame, and everyone's going to get excited about that.
Good for him.
He's going to join the 7 or 8 other great Canadian players. I mean, that's going to be exciting.
They're going to raise his jersey up in Calgary.
Oh, absolutely.
And it'll be great. Well, you know,
and Prince Fielder, you know, listen, if it was a pie eating contest, my money's on Prince. Not as big as the old man, but he was gaining until he got hurt.
He was trying. He was trying
to catch up to the big fella.
Yeah. Looking to see who's available. Kurt Schilling. Is Kurt Schilling a Hall of Famer?
To me, he is.
216 wins at 3.49 ERA, 316 strikeouts. Last year on the ballot, 71% last year.
He would have had my vote. I hated the bloody sock thing, but the guy was great in the postseason.
Okay. Barry Bonds, 61% of the vote. We all know what Barry Bonds did.
He's a roid guy. I still think he was a good enough player before the roids to get in.
Exactly. He was a Hall of Famer. He was going towards.
Much like A-Rod.
Yeah. Clemens with 61.6% of the votes last year in his 10th year. He also was a Hall of Famer before the roids.
I think Bonds was better, but I'd still put Clemens in as well.
Exactly, but not now. I mean, I can't. I can't.
If you had an advantage, you don't get to get in.
Right. I mean, I'm very good looking. I've got an advantage over most people in a lot of senses.
Nobody in the planet, with the exception of your wife, perhaps, would confuse you with good looking. Nobody.
My mother, jerk. My mother. F you.
Scott you mean my best gal? My mom? She doesn't think you're good looking. No, I'm just kidding. My wife hates when I call my mother my best gal, by the way. She fucking hates that.
Well, look, because
it's something I have to use every now and again.
Yeah, I hear you. Scott Rollins is in his 5th year of eligibility.
Good player, not a great player.
If you're going to open up the very good Hall of Fame, he's in.
Fantasy, I would have taken him in the mid rounds. I mean, that's where I'd be. But he was never he was never the best third baseman in the league. Never.
Well, Omar Vizquel, he's
eligible.
Great glove. He had 2,877 hits, which is pretty impressive.
He did, no doubt about it. I mean, it's really impressive that he almost got to 3,000. He played a lot of seasons also, and he didn't hit much when he was Seattle. He didn't hit much.
He was an accumulator, but as far as I'm concerned,
it was Don Sutton. He's in.
if you put Ozzie Smith in for his defense, you got to put Omar in because he also had some decent numbers.
I think Ozzie was a little better. I think he was more clutch offensively, my opinion. I mean, statistically, he won't say that because he was a horrible hitter as a Padre, but he was a really clutch guy with the Cards. Vizquel wasn't a great hitter with the Mariners, but he really played well with the Indians.
Great career with the Indians. Billy Wagner.
You know what? I'll give him the nod. I'll say that Vizquel could get in. I won't put Billy Wagner in. I think he's good, but I wouldn't put him in.
Based on what they've let in the Hall of Fame, like I'm not a big Kirby Puckett guy.
I actually like Kirby. I just didn't think his career was long enough.
Exactly. I love Kirby Puckett. Great ball player, but wasn't long enough, like you said. So, and plus, also, if he had just gained 10 more pounds, maybe.
You got to love a chubby guy that can cover center field like that. He was actually a good center field, a really good center fielder with an amazing arm.
Right.
And he was fat. That's why I love Tony Gwynn so much.
He wasn't aerodynamically inclined to run for those balls.
Tony Gwynn, who's fact of the matter, was drafted by the NBA and MLB, and was drafted by the Clippers in the 10th round as the all-time assist leader at San Diego State. Became really fat as well, and he became very good.
Right. Quickly, Todd Helton, 300
good player, but most of those stats were in Colorado. Can't give it to him.
I agree. Gary Sheffield, another steroid guy, maybe.
Another steroid guy, and a guy that was a little moody, where he'd have ups and downs. I liked him as a Yankee. I really did.
He produced.
He did.
He had 2,689 hits, 509 home runs, 9 All-Stars, batting .292. Because I don't think they've ever really not that they proved, but I think he should get in.
It's close.
Close.
I would put him as close. I would still have him out, but not by much.
Andrew Jones, absolutely not. A .254 hitter.
Good player.
Good player, but just power.
Great glove.
Yeah. Jeff Kent, we mentioned, 377 home runs, 1,518 RBIs. To me, if you have Roberto Alomar in there, how the hell isn't Jeff Kent in there?
Jeff Kent was statistically, offensively really good.
Just an angry bastard.
Oh, he was miserable, but I love that about him. He fought Barry Bonds. Didn't like him. Love it.
Love it. Then you got Sammy, no. Andy Pettit, no. Mark.
Another
White,
accumulator.
no.
I mean, you look at Andy's stats. The ERA is not going to impress you, but he got the wins, and he has the career strikeout numbers aren't bad.
Right, but not enough. Again,
he was just a really good pitcher. He wasn't great. He didn't dominate.
I wouldn't even put him in the very good Hall of Fame. I'd put him in the good Hall of Fame.
Listen, he never. I don't know if he ever even finished top 5 in the Cy Young. I don't even know if he did.
And you got Torrey Hunter again, another very
nice
good
player, one of those twins, but nothing great.
And Bobby Abreu, absolutely not.
Nah, Bobby Abreu showed how good he was when he came to the Mets.
Right.
Hey, every time the Mets think, you gotta love the Mets, right? Because and we'll go to football in a second, but you gotta love the Mets. They go out of their way and they get Roberto Alomar, who becomes a horrible player as a Met, right? Just not good. Then they go out and get Carlos Baerga, another American League middle infielder. Shits the bed as a Met, right? Really bad.
Poops the
bed. Then last year they go out and get Lindor. Worst year he's ever had.
I'm
taking these middle infielders from the American League Mets. They don't want to play for you. Stop it.
At least not well.
They don't play well at all. They stink.
Javi
Baez, the Mets, and you look at them on paper, they should be pretty good. They're just not.
You know what?
Syndergaard got into a battle with Francesa this week.
I know. I got that. That's in my notes here.
Sorry. I didn't mean to digress.
No, it's great. He got $21 million to go over to Anaheim. And you know what? He felt that, number one, Anaheim actually, the GM basically made love to him. He flew over, had dinner with them, sat down, discussed his contract. And, Syndergaard said, listen, this is a make or break year for me. If I got to bounce back, and if I don't have a really good year, my big contract is not coming. I got to go to a team that wants me, that seems to be serious to win. And nobody is really guarding the gate for the Mets. It's like they're sleeping at the wheel waiting for Billy Epler to get hired. So
how many good players have to leave? Now, I know he was hurt, and I don't think he was worth $21 million in a 1 year coming off the injury. So you know what? You weren't going to get him anyway.
But he was getting 18.4 because they made him a qualifying.
I get it. What I would have done was done a 2-year 40 and called it a day. So I'll give you the 18.4. I'll give you 22 in the second year. Let me hold on to the guy and see what you have. That's why you have to go with that multi-year. I hate these 1 year stupid deals these teams do, especially off a guy with an injury. I just never understand it.
But they didn't. And then Fatso goes off on texting that saying that we haven't had you for, the Mets haven't had him for a number of years. And then Syndergaard tweets back, "You're alive?"
Yeah, pretty much. That was